Afternoon and welcome to our first meeting of July after the July 4th holidays. I hope everyone had a good holiday. We have a few people in the audience tonight, and we're also streaming live on YouTube video. The invocation tonight will be led by our Mayor Pro Tem, Dr. B. Thompson, and respect to the flag will be led by Councilman Rick Lockridge. Please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the privilege that you've given us to assemble in these council chambers once more. And as always, we thank you, Lord, for your presence among us. And as we conduct the business of our city, we ask your guidance. Give us insight to make decisions that are in the best interest of our citizens, and of course, pleasing in your spirit, in your sight. As we look around our city, our county, our nation, it is filled with division and confusion. We ask, dear God, that you would give us the vision to see what is possible and the faith to pave the way for a present that is hopeful, a future that is peaceful, and a heart to bring joy and comfort to others. And as we stand here tonight, dear God, with humble hearts, we ask you for a special blessing on our community as we experience the violence and the negative forces in our midst. Help us to learn to stay together, to pray together, and to be together and work together to the benefit of all of our citizens and a community that we all love. It's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start our agenda tonight, we have a couple of items. And the first is special recognition, and I'm going to ask Chief Stewart to come down and lead us in this part of the program. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. As I always say, I appreciate council recognizing our promotions, and we have two captains tonight. Thank you, sir. I'd like to ask Captain Carl Roberson to come down and join me. Captain Roberson started her law enforcement career with the South Carolina Department of Probation, Parole and Pardon Services in 2008 as a probation agent. She joined the Anderson Police Department in 2009, where she started as a patrol officer. She was then transferred to CID, where she specialized in our criminal domestic violence investigations, violent crimes against women, and homicides. Captain Roberson was promoted to corporal in January of 2012, sergeant in June of 2012, and lieutenant of criminal investigations in November of 2016. Captain Carl Roberson will serve as our detention captain and jail administrator. Captain Roberson, do you have anybody here you might recognize tonight?
Yes, my parents, my son, my husband, Captain M. Roberson, and my best friends, Tanoya and Marcus, and a couple of my coworkers.
On behalf of the city, thank you all for being here. Captain Richard Willett, if you would come on down and join us. Captain Willett began his career in law enforcement in 1987 in the town of Williamston, working his way from patrol through the ranks to interim chief in 2010. Captain Willett joined the city of Anderson in March of 2010. After 3 years of service, he transferred to the Criminal Investigative Division as a detective sergeant for forensics. In 2018, he was transferred to lieutenant over the traffic division and additionally tasked with municipal services to include the court and security and our patrol and major events in downtown Anderson. Captain Willett will serve as the administrative captain. Okay, captains, if you will over here, raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I, Captain Carla Roberson.
Captain Richard Willett.
As a captain of the City of Anderson Police Department.
As a captain of the City of Anderson Police Department.
Equally, fairly, and impartially.
Equally, fairly, and impartially.
To the best of my ability and skill.
To the best of my ability and skill.
exercise the trust reposed in me,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
and will use my best endeavors
and will use my best endeavors
to preserve the peace
to preserve the peace
and carry into effect,
and carry into effect,
according to law,
according to law,
the purpose for which I've been elected.
the purpose for which I've been elected.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, it's that time of the year where we elect the election of our Mayor Pro Tem. Ms. McEwen?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So each year, we start we have a rotation, and as you can see here on your background sheet, that we rotate based on seniority, the election of the Mayor Pro Tem. With that, Mr. Matt Harmon is, his time has come to serve, and he has accepted that. And so with that, we need to have an official nomination and election of the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, sir. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have the first by Mr. John Roberts, second by Mr. Rick Lockridge. Any discussion?
I just have one quick thing, Mayor. I look forward to serving, and this will be my second stint as Mayor Pro Tem. And you took a couple of weeks off last time I was Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, yeah.
And I anticipate for you not taking a couple of weeks
We don't need to
off,
do that again. No.
if you could.
Yes.
Congratulations.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous, and we have a new Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to thank Dr. Thompson for jumping in here last year, pitching in to fulfill Mr. Chapman's.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, so, great. The minutes of our June 27th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Make the motion to approve the minutes.
First by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. Jeff Roberts. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The June 27th minutes stand approved. We don't have any old business, and we have 4 items of new business. And our first item of new business is request consideration of referral to the Planning Commission to rezone 9.31 acres at the corner of East River Street and Clark Lane from neighborhood commercial to a PDD, which is a planned development document. Ms. McEwen?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. As you're aware, we've received quite a number of these over the last year and a half, and usually had about 4 on the agenda at one time. We do have one before us, 9.31 acres, and Mr. Maurice McKenzie will go over some of the details of that as it's being requested to be referred to the Planning Commission. Mr. McKenzie.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is 9.31 acres. The applicant's proposing to rezone the property to NC neighborhood commercial in order to construct townhouses. Excuse me. The current zoning is NC neighborhood commercial, and that does allow townhouse development, but the applicant is requesting PDD planned development district in order to have some flexibility with development standards, and it also gives us an opportunity to add details to the development standards. Of course, PDD requires a document that acts as the design guidelines and development standards for the property. That's currently being developed right now. It's in draft form, so it should be ready by the time it comes to Planning Commission. And again, we're recommending referral of this to Planning Commission, and their next meeting is August 2nd. Any questions?
Any questions? It'll come back to us, but any questions?
I have a couple. Just, it seems like the flavor of the day out this direction are townhomes, and I know it's zoned for that currently, But in what ways does the PDD give us maybe a stronger position
Well, as we
than just allowing it to go through as it is?
Right. As we've been working on PDDs in the past, over the past year and a half, we can add several design elements. We can have standards with aesthetics. We can have different things. If you've seen with our other guidelines, a lot of it's been with single family, but we had a multifamily townhouse development on East River Street. We've had one out on Old Williamson Road, that area as well. And with that, you're able to add just more teeth to the guidelines. So you can end up with a better product. And the developer, they like the PDD a lot of times as well because it gives them some flexibility with lot sizes and things of that nature.
And you can see in this last year or two, everything in, I guess that's yellow, or trying to be yellow. I don't know what color exactly that is, but anyways, going down Clark Lane there, all that was recently annexed into the city. Liberty Communities is doing that development, it's PDD, and they're doing a mixture of townhomes, single-family residences there as well. So this continued growth in this Southeast Anderson part, and it's good to see that.
Good.
Can I ask a question?
Ms. Locke?
What is it looks like it's out near the Nutty Sweet Shop.
Yes, it's at the corner of Clark Lane where Belton Woods Apartments are located, but it is in the general area of the Nutty Sweet Shop.
Is that
yes,
where
sir.
the old theater used to be?
Not that far up.
Not that far out?
Yeah.
This is the property that is on each side and behind it, formerly a bank.
There's an old bank
Yeah.
to the left
I
of
know
it.
the property
Yeah.
well there.
It's like right here, I think there's an old bank. Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Mayor, I move we send it to the planning commission.
First by Mr. Jeff Roberts. Second by Dr. Thompson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Our second item is request consideration to purchase vehicles for the police department. Mr. McEwen?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. What used to be a very easy process to purchase vehicles has become very difficult, especially police-equipped vehicles. What we've run into, sometimes it takes about 8 months to get a vehicle, sometimes the full year of the fiscal year. So, of course, we just budgeted in this year for new police vehicles, and then we face every other state agency, municipality, and county and the purchase of these vehicles. And as you can see, along our own motor mile here in Anderson, there's hardly any new inventory on the lots. So in this case, it's a little bit different this year. We had to do quite a amount of search. There's some very specific specifications that we have when we purchase police vehicles. It's not your standard off-the-shelf vehicle, and it's really a vehicle designed specifically for police, heavy suspension, upgraded alternators, and so forth to be able to handle the equipment that's put on them. So with that, Chief Stewart will go over the search form and where we ended up. Mr. Stewart.
So basically, the state contract is, last week, still not available yet, and we're looking probably September, October before that will be available to us to purchase vehicles. And with past practices, if we order in September, October, we'll get those cars probably about March. So we looked at some vehicles, actually, that Love Chevrolet had on the lot. We were looking at the Tahoes, and like Mr. McEwen said, they had 20 law enforcement vehicles, and they were sold. One agency, probably as we call larger agents in the state, took all the vehicles. So we did a little more research. We found the 5 police interceptors. That is more like a Ford Explorer, but it's a souped up Ford Explorer called a Ford Interceptor. We were able to locate those at O.C. Welch Ford in Hardyville, South Carolina. There's a government incentive contract that is available, and that is what we're proposing to you. That is a 24-valve, twin-turbo Ford Police Interceptor. That's what it is. It's a complete police package. Looking at what's coming, from what the dealerships have told me, Santee, Ford, and also Performance Dodge, Santee Dodge, that we purchased from in the past, the cars are going up. Dodge Durango is going to be over $40,000. They haven't kind of said what the Dodge Charger will be this coming year. But these are vehicles we can get our hands on right now, and that's what I requested from Mr. McEwen, to go ahead and put our hands on these vehicles. They should be in at O.C. Welch Ford within the next 3 weeks.
Let me add a couple more things too, but the other thing that's become real competitive is once you get the vehicle, so if we were to not find these and go into, and not be able to secure these and go into waiting either for the state contract or another dealership that sells these government vehicles. So not all dealerships will sell these government vehicles because they're only making about $500 per vehicle. So it's all about volume. So, when they can sell to Highway Patrol and everybody, every municipality, county, and state, you do a lot of volume on that. So there's several dealerships even outside the state contractor. If it's not available, they'll still participate because they have a government sales rep on staff, and that's all they do is do these vehicles for municipalities and counties and the state agencies as well. So that's what he's referring to here is the government incentive vehicles that this dealership is also offering, and they're engaged in the activity of selling government vehicles. The other thing is it's been very competitive to get them outfitted. So to get them outfitted now, we used to actually do it in-house, but they've become so complex with the lighting systems, the radar, the radio systems and everything being put together really seamless and actually lasting and being under warranty, that equipment. That equipment's not included in here. It's something that I can sign off on it, but it is in their budget to be able to purchase equipment for the vehicles. So just want to let you know, to make it simpler, this is the bulk purchase of the vehicles, not the equipment, but as soon as we get the vehicles, we go ahead and line it up for one of the outfitters. We bid that out to the outfitters to completely outfit, is turnkey the car for us, and then we get it ready to go. So that's just give you a little more background.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Dr. Thompson?
What is an interceptor? Is this an SUV?
Yes, ma'am. So the police, the Ford Explorer is their small or mid-size SUV. So the Ford refers to their police vehicles as Interceptor, and so it can be the sedan or the other one's based on the Explorer. So these are the Explorers, but they're actually a different type of vehicle for police, and then the hardware that they put into them.
Mr. Mayor, are they holding these for us?
Sir?
Are they holding the vehicles for us?
Yes, sir.
They are?
He reached out to me actually yesterday to make sure that we were still interested.
Okay.
I think he's ordered about 65 and they're almost all spoken for.
So somebody like Greenville County, they'll order 3 times a year, and they'll order like 80 at a time. And so you compete against these agencies like that, or say Columbia Police Department would order about 80 at a time. I think Greenville puts in like 70 or 80 a year. And so it's, at least we have a group of them that we order. Some agencies that are trying to get 1 or 2, it's almost impossible to get one. So we definitely try to get ahead of the curve when the fiscal year starts before those other agencies put in their 70 or 80 vehicles that they want.
Mr. Harper?
Chief, how many vehicles are you planning to purchase this year?
This is it. This is what's budgeted for this year. We usually have a replacement plan, and we roll with that. We will pick out our 5 worst cars to take off the road. We are not short any vehicles. These are just going to replace the ones that are in our fleet.
So I will add one more thing, Mr. Harvin, to that caveat, is sometimes we have the opportunity through drug seizure money or other pots of money to acquire vehicles for the special units. And you can't really predict that, but sometimes throughout the year, we have opportunities to do that, and which is normally we buy about 10 a year. We've been averaging about 10 a year by using the other pots of money, but this is the budgeted capital replacement fund vehicles that we aim for this number every year, and then end up with sometimes 10 vehicles.
Ms. Lockridge, go ahead. Ms. Harper and Ms. Lockridge, go ahead.
This is something we said we were going to do, is make sure that the police have proper equipment and that they were kept good, repaired, and that everything would be done. So I move that we go ahead and purchase these.
Second.
First by Mr. Lockridge, a second by Mr. Harvin. Discussion.
I was going to ask, did you mention something about the charge?
The Dodge Charger?
Yeah.
You have a question about it?
I thought I heard the chief say something about the Dodge Charger.
It's currently unavailable. That's our problem. And so it's been a very good vehicle for us. And Chief will attest to that. It's held up really well. Our mechanics have been pleased with it. Our mechanics have also been pleased with this vehicle that we're purchasing tonight as well. They're currently unavailable to.
Oh yeah, because I love that Charger.
You like it?
Yeah.
You have one, don't you, Dr. Thompson? That's right. I remember that now.
Chief, does every officer have a designated vehicle now?
Yes, sir.
It's mentioned in the report. And those are take-home?
They are.
Okay, good. I had a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
Our next item is request consideration to purchase an all-terrain litter vacuum for the Recreation Department. Ms. McEwen?
Okay, this is something also that was within our capital replacement fund, so a planned purchase. It is over my purchase limit, and Bobby Bevel is here tonight. I was looking back to make sure he's there to go over this item with you.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. It says Recreation Department. It's really for our beautification department, and especially who works in downtown. In 2015, we purchased the first one that we had. We pick up trash on Main Street, use it for the parking garage, parking lots. It's a smaller vehicle. You can get into those areas. The unit we have's got about 1,500 hours. We've had some issues mechanically. The garage has had a problem getting parts for it, just with chain supply issues. So we are coming to you tonight with the request to purchase an additional litter terrain vacuum because of the expansion of downtown with North Main Commons, an additional parking garage, the additional activities in downtown, the foot traffic is just more people downtown, more trash to pick up. This unit is a diesel unit. It has a 24.8 engine, heavy-duty hydrostatic drive system, has a 100 to 120 gallon litter container. The other one that we currently have is a 50 gallon, so we have to dump it quite a bit. And has a 48-inch vacuum. It will fit in our garage area to get that. And this unit is equipped with a water mist system, so if you have a lot of dust, it can keep the dust down as you're picking stuff up in that. Having two of these will, that when the other one's working, will help us get these areas cleaned up in a quicker time, reduce man hours, and so money was budgeted in the capital replacement fund. This is a Sourcewell contract through Infrastructure Solutions in Mooresville, North Carolina, and the price is $78,820. So we're recommending the purchase of an all-terrain litter vacuum in the amount of $74,820.
Thank you, Mr. Bevel. Just out of curiosity, how many people do we have on the beautification team now?
We have 5 in downtown and 4 that cut our parks and medians and some of those areas. Yeah.
Things look great. Comments?
I got a comment. So this, we already have one vacuum. So this would be the additional, and this would operate in tandem, correct? So it wouldn't replace, it'd be in tandem.
That is correct.
Do we know what the typical useful life is for something like this? I think the first one you mentioned was 1,500 hours is what we currently have.
Most of the units last for about 8 to 10 years, depending on how many hours you have.
Sure.
It's usually slow MPHs that they're driving along Main Street and in the parking lot, so it's not like you got a lot of strain on the engine. So we looked at this will, stay for another 10, 15 years.
Sure. Well, I think there's
as
some
long
value.
as we can get parts.
Yeah, there's definitely some value to operate, more than one vehicle at the same time, just to maintain and preserve these for the length of period that we need. But thank you for answering that.
Well, every Friday morning, our crew comes in, blows off all the sidewalks, all that into Main Street. And then our machine goes down through that. With that, we can have groups on both sides of the sidewalk, 2 machines coming up and picking up the debris from that.
Mayor kind of hit on it. I was going to mention it as well. Beautification department, it seems to be doing an exceptionally well job recently. I've noticed downtown as well. I mean, I know you see them out there in the morning getting so much stuff done. I mean, and it doesn't stop with just that department either. I mean, I've noticed in general the last several years, you know, whether it's electricity transit, I mean, the buses look better than they ever have, I think. And I mean, I think that's noticeable to the constituents and the community that we serve. So I think any tools we can give those departments to succeed, something we should do. So I'll make that motion to approve.
Have a first by Mr. Newton,
Second.
second by Mr. Jeff Roberts. Louis Martinez, stand corrected. Further discussion, question? Ms. Lockhart?
You said that we're having a little bit of difficulty with the first finding parts, et cetera. Is this, first of all, is this the same brand as the first one we bought?
It is not. That we have a tenant machine currently, and we did test a tenant machine, but the one that they have now is just too bulky, could not make the turns that we needed to get into the close areas. This was, I guess we tested 4 different units, and we had our crew drive them and get into the tight areas that they maintain, and this was by far the one that had the most bells and whistles, but also best beneficial for us.
And the second question, kind of follow up on that. We'll be able to get parts for this.
Yes.
Like you said, we're having difficulty with the first one. This would be easier to get parts.
And tenant says we'll be able to get the parts. They're just on a container somewhere.
Okay, gotcha. Understand.
Mr. Harbin?
I'd like to also piggyback on what Mr. Newton said. Over the last 3 months, I've had more people comment about downtown and what it looks like with the flowers and the beds, just out of the blue, from phone calls to passing. And so please pass along.
I will. And our downtown crew really takes a lot of pride. They know now that they see a lot of people. They see us expanding, building. They see the new parking garage, new hotel. So they too take a lot of pride in downtown.
And they use that vacuum. I come down Main Street at about 7:20 just about every morning, and I see that vacuum out there a lot.
Yeah.
Vacuuming the park.
And since you brought that up too, Mr. Harvard, just about downtown, and Mr. Newton, is just so you're aware too, the grass looks bad. I kind of feel bad about it a little bit in front of the courthouse, but we're waiting on some new sod to come in, so it's waiting on delivery of that. We're going to resod that area, and we've been working on the irrigation right there, and then put brand new sod down, so it'll look good.
We maintain, that's our responsibility. We maintain.
Yeah, we've been maintaining that area, and then Bobby really came to us and Andrew and said, hey, let's upgrade this and make this look better with the grass. So decided to put some better irrigation in there and then some new sod.
Good man, proud of it. Mr. Bevel, you must have a really good horticulturist, the guy that you hired.
Right.
The flowers downtown are beautiful.
They do.
Excellent job.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Good. Thanks. We had a first and a second. Good discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You have a new vacuum, Mr. Buck. Thank you.
Y'all move downtown, Carol,
Yes, ma'am.
so you can really monitor what's going on down there.
Yeah, see all the beautiful flowers every day. That's right.
Our next item of new business is request consideration of an engineering service for a unit price collection system sewer repair contract. That's a mouthful. Ms. McCune.
Yeah, with utilities is always a mouthful. So Mr. Scott Banks, our utilities director, is here tonight, but I will tell you before we get into this item, of course, we had Mr. Jeff Caldwell, our utilities director before that, did such a good job with the EPA, working with them. We had a mandate with them, which was tough to swallow, I know, for council, but it was a really good established program they put in place. And we have excelled in implementing that program, which released us from the administrative order of consent that our larger systems like us had. And so we've been released from that. And then we've been very proactive within and very strategic in the implementation of the program, which is a 10-fold program that gets really detailed in different areas of infrastructure. This in particular deals with the rehab of infrastructure that are pipes in the ground that don't necessarily where you have to go in and dig the whole thing up and replace, but there's some other technologies out there. And so one of the things, if you can remember, in the utilities is that we had to do a full assessment, or we had to do a 10% assessment of our system every year and look at it through, we have robots and video camera, and then we contract some of that out. And this is the outcome of that, of trying to make the repairs to some of the point repairs to the sewer system is what we're looking at here. So, Mr. Banks, if you would dive into the item for us from there.
Good evening. As Mr. McEwen said, as part of the administrative order that was terminated earlier this year, the city agreed to conduct ongoing annual assessments to portions of the collection system, and we've now completed several of those years of assessment, and we performed several of those repairs that were within our capability as staff, but there are certain repairs such as lining and pipe bursting that are above and beyond what we have the equipment or the capability to do. And likewise, as we continue these annual assessments, we'll find other repairs that need to be done that we don't have the equipment or the manpower to do at the time. And by utilizing a unit price contract, we'll have the opportunity to add those repairs to this contract without having to go back through the engineering and bidding process if we so choose each time. And as this request is for the engineering services for the design and specifications of bidding the project, and with W.K. Dixon, who's currently on our engineering on-call list, they've submitted a proposal for $160,500. The benefit is that I will give the city the needed engineering service to get the project bid and executed. We have funds in the sewer budget to cover the cost. And in summary, with that, staff recommends contracting with W.K. Dixon for design, bidding, and construction phase services of a unit price contract for sewer repairs at a cost of $160,500.
And I'll add on just a few more things about the on-call list. If you can remember, so to help us out, because we're always using different engineering and architecture firms, using over 10 right now, 10 different firms from architecture and engineering to geotechnical. And so we went out and did the request for qualifications. It's a big comprehensive process that we did. There's interviews, there's scoring, there's looking at their credentials, what they're good at, and then assigning them, then having you guys approve them to be on our own call list, which W.K. Dixon, of course, was approved as part of that process. And then it's the assignment to different projects throughout the city. So we're trying to, and I want to thank Scott. He's been very diligent about how we assign them, so it makes sense. So in this case, and Scott, you explained it to me. If you would, just explain it again, the assignment of W.K. Dixon here and the assignment of some of the engineering firms, other engineering firms that we're using on the sewer system.
We've kind of divvied it up. We've got W.K. Dixon, who's looking at our Rocky River plant. We've got Black and Beach looking at the Generosity plant, and likewise, Black and Beach is looking to do because Generosity relief sewer feeds Generosity plant, which they're working on. They're doing a PER for that project, which will be hopefully coming to you later for a grant request. Some of the ARPA funds that are hopefully going to be available soon. And likewise, W.K. Dixon has done a good bit of sewer assessment work and repair, and so with that, we chose them from that standpoint.
And then, as you're aware, too, Design South, which is actually Ardura now, they were purchased, and so they're part of our Ardura company. They are working on our Cox Creek line. You remember that large project? So it's a 3-phase project, around $15 million there, and so they're well underway on that project. When we received a grant on that project, and then there's some funds that are also becoming available to us, about $900 million at the state level that they got in ARPA funds, American Rescue Package funds, and so we'll be pursuing those as well. Trying to put in a couple of $15 million projects into that pot, and I think we'll be competitive in that nature too. So look forward to pursuing those, and those are large projects, completely replacing pipe, some for, 7-8 miles of large diameter pipe. But it's important to get in here and do these point repairs. That's really can cause you a lot of trouble in these smaller conveyances of the sewer area. So this is this continuation of moving it from assessment to actually implementing and repairing.
Sounds good. Questions, comments? Mr. Roberts?
I've got a couple. Any specific projects in mind? Or is this part of that comes out of the CMOM program? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The first phase of this particular, they've already been identified, and like I said, we've already repaired those that staff could handle. There are several lines that need either lining or need pipe bursting that we can upsize and get more capacity on those, but we already have, let me look here, I've got it in my, roughly 9,000 feet that we've already identified that this first piece will cover. And then like I alluded to, we'll be able to continue with this particular contract or engineering piece of it, I guess you say. As we find others, we would just add it as long as we had monies available, because it's a unit price contract. We can add to it without having to go through the same role every time.
So these services are for engineering and bidding and construction oversight?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Holbrook?
So, thank you for starting with us. I don't know, how long have you been with us at the city?
September was when I first started.
So it's coming up on a year.
Yes, sir.
You know, I think it might be a good idea to have maybe a work session, since we have this expert now with us. Not that Jeff wasn't, but maybe since we have a fresh set of eyes on it, to just give us an overview of what you see and what problems, you see coming down the road, because that's what everybody wants, sewer and water, and maybe bring us up to speed on, what a fresh set of eyes after you've looked at it for a year on, what may be some of our challenges going down the road, so we don't get caught behind the 8 ball, again, 10 years from now. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Well, first by Mr. Harbin, second by Mr. John Roberts. Good discussion. Any other discussion? Maybe we'll get all the 91 million, Scott. Probably not. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The last item of new business is request consideration of a grant to the Cleo Bailey experiment to provide water infrastructure to the organization's community garden located at 111003 East Whitman Street. Mr. McEwen.
Okay, we had a work session on this and a presentation by Ms. Mary Haley Thompson at 5:30 before the meeting. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Thompson to go over just a recap for the public to the background of this, and then the program requests and answer any questions. Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. Yes, as Mr. McEwen said, I'm just going to kind of recap a lot of the discussion that we talked about today at 5:30, starting with how exciting this project is in the east side of Anderson. The Cleo Bailey Experiment is a nonprofit organization that serves the east side residents through a community garden located at 1003 East Whitner Street. And this property is the former Cleo Bailey School, and before that, the East Whitner Street School. The garden produces a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables and currently serves around 30 families in this area. And in the last 7 days, as of today, the garden has yielded around 80 pounds of produce for the area residents. And this project, the gardens and some of the other things that the property is doing right now has really enhanced the quality of life for the residents, and especially with the gardens just really providing access to healthy food options. And so in the future, as we discussed in the work session, we would love to bring back a program that's more formalized for garden grants, that would be micro grants to support the construction, design, or utilities of community gardens within the city limits of Anderson. But tonight we would ask that we go ahead and award the Cleo Bailey experiment with a grant in the amount of $2,500 to cover water infrastructure costs that would be covering the water tap fee, setup, and supply expenses throughout a 1-year period so that they can really enhance their growth process. As currently they're using rainwater and rain buckets to water all the plants, so this is really going to take the process up a notch and really help them as they continue to serve this community. So right now I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. As mentioned earlier, we did spend 20, 30 minutes in a work session, but I want to make sure everybody's questioned. Any other questions, any comments?
I'll just make a quick comment, Mayor Roberts. You know, I find myself very proud when you read and hear about stories and missions like the Cleo Bailey Project. You know, this is not only a response to a city and a community need, but it's also a response to a calling. You know, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith felt very much led to do this, and I think that initiative and that spirit and that heart lives in that project. So I'm just very proud of them for what they've done for our Anderson community and the mission they're carrying out. So, you know, with that being said, I'd make a motion that we approve this, Mayor Roberts.
Second.
We have a first by Mr. Martinez, a second by Mr. Newton. Any discussion?
I think it's a wonderful project.
I do too.
Good. I think we all agree. Thank you, Mayor Haley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Looking forward to, we're by there this weekend, looking forward to their continued success. Not having any more business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have first by Mr. Newton.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harvey. The Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.